Heartwarming encounter. Girl's incredible words at shelter gate transform CEO's life forever. Ethan Mallory sped down the bustling streets of Atlanta, his silver car gleaming in the sweltering afternoon sun. The weight of the world pressed on his shoulders. Deadlines, meetings, and the relentless chime of corporate pressures filled his mind. He was a sought-after CEO in a booming tech startup, but amidst the cacophony of success, he had lost himself. The simple joys of community and generosity faded into distant memories, shadows of a life once cherished. His charming wife and 2 little ones often reminded him of the precious balance he tossed aside. Yet the thrill of ambition overshadowed their pleas. As Ethan sat in a frustrating traffic jam near a local shelter, a sudden urge struck him. He parked his sleek vehicle and stepped out to clear his mind. The sun beat down relentlessly, but he barely noticed. He approached the shelter gate, his heart pounding with a mix of curiosity and unease. Just then, 10-year-old Mia appeared, a bright-eyed girl whose smile lit up the shaded entrance. "Hi there," she chirped, her spirit infectious, radiating warmth. Ethan's tight chest began to loosen as she shared her family's story, a tale woven with hardship after they lost their home in a devastating fire. Despite the struggles, Mia's eyes sparkled with hope as she spoke. "Hope is the most valuable thing a person can give," she said, her words wrapping around Ethan like a comforting embrace. Tears pricked at his eyes. In that moment, he felt the humanity he'd neglected clawing back at him, awakening a part of himself buried deep beneath layers of corporate armor. The girl's innocence and unwavering spirit rekindled something profound within him, igniting a flicker of compassion he thought he had lost forever. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Motivated by Mia's remarkable spirit, Ethan threw himself into volunteering at the shelter. At first, it felt like a temporary escape from his high-stakes world, but as he tried to implement a company-driven charity initiative, he quickly realized something was amiss. The shiny corporate program fell flat, devoid of the connection Mia had shown him that day. His heart sank, and disappointment turned the flicker of hope into a blaze of conviction. Ethan's yearning for change rippled deeper. He knew the economic inequalities around him, how families like Mia's needed more than just good intentions, they needed real support. In reconnecting with his estranged brother, he unearthed long-buried truths about family and struggle, leading him to grasp that transformation must begin within. As the stakes heightened, Ethan found himself at the front of a room filled with peers, his voice trembling but resolute. "We need to be more than profit seekers," he declared. The air crackled with tension. Memories of Mia's hopeful words danced through his mind. He stood at a crossroads, the tension thick like fog. Could he redefine success in a ruthless world? The spotlight was on him, but shadows of his past ambitions loomed large. Ethan clung to hope that perhaps the path Mia's wisdom revealed could light a brighter way forward, if only he could summon the courage to embrace it. Ethan stood there, heart racing, feeling eyes boring into him as he took a deep breath. His colleagues looked intrigued, a mix of skepticism and curiosity flashing across their faces. He could sense the weight of their expectations hovering in the air. Ethan had spent years shaping his career around climbing the corporate ladder, but now, in this moment of raw vulnerability, he realized he needed to shift his focus. "I've been blinded by success," he admitted, voice trembling slightly. "But Mia reminded me that true wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's in compassion, community, and connection." The words flowed out of him, powered by an urgency he had not felt in years. Some in the room exchanged glances. Was this just a fleeting moment of inspiration, or a genuine call for change? Ethan squared his shoulders and pressed on, passion igniting the spark of transformation he yearned for. "Let us pivot our mission. Let us create genuine opportunities for families like her support systems, job training, mentorship. Cheers erupted from a few co-workers. The energy in the room shifted. Gradually, hesitant hands began to clap. Then a thunderous applause washed over him. Hope expanded within him like a flower opening to the sun. But as the excitement filled the atmosphere, a shadow of doubt crept in. Questions loomed in his mind. Could he truly convince the board? Would they embrace this new direction, or would they cling stubbornly to their old ways? Ethan knew he had to take the next step. He had to fully commit. Over the next few weeks, he threw himself into building a plan. Late nights became common as he meticulously worked to gather data, research community needs, and reach out to local organizations. He was consumed, fueled by a newfound sense of purpose. His family began to notice his absence, and while he missed them dearly, the thought of fighting for the change Mia had inspired kept him going. One evening, as he meticulously drafted a presentation for the board meeting, his phone buzzed with a message from his brother. "I heard about what you're trying to do, Ethan. It's bold. I'm proud of you." A rush of warmth flooded over him. He had barely spoken to his brother in years, and their past grievances felt insignificant now compared to the transformation he sought. Could this endeavor also bridge the divide between them? The night before the presentation, Ethan felt the familiar fear creeping in. What if they rejected his idea? What if he couldn't bring the vision to life? He decided to call Mia, surprised he had her number. As soon as she answered, he poured out his heart about the journey since they met, closing with, "I just want to do something meaningful." Her response was simple, a childlike certainty wrapped in wisdom. "Just remember, Ethan, hope is contagious. Share it." The next day, he walked into the boardroom with a nervous smile. He had transformed the sleek presentation slides into a compelling story about people, families, and dignity. As he began to speak, he felt Mia's presence with him, an echo of her conviction filling the air. "Imagine what we could do if we chose to be part of the solution," he began, feeling the weight of the moment shift again. As he locked eyes with each board member, he could see a flicker of interest ignite in their expressions. Would they be willing to embrace the change? Did he have enough courage to turn this moment of hope into a tangible movement? Everything hung in the balance, and he steeled himself for their response. The moment of truth was just within reach. Ethan stood before the board, a sea of faces reflecting a mixture of doubt and curiosity. He could feel the weight of his vision resting on each word that flowed from his lips. "We have this chance to shape lives, to create lasting effects in our community." As he spoke, the confidence he had built over years in the corporate world started to merge with the purpose Mia had awakened in him. He watched the expressions of his colleagues carefully. Some brows were furrowed, skepticism palpable in the air. Others showed the first signs of understanding, eyes lighting up as he outlined his ideas. Imagine providing families not just with aid, but with the skills and support they need to thrive. Each point he made carried with it the urgency of a survivor's plea, a reminder of the lives they had the power to change. Yet, despite their glimmers of hope, Ethan felt an undercurrent of resistance. A voice broke through the moment, sharp and clear. "This is all well and good, Ethan, but what about our profits? Our bottom line?" Chad, one of the more traditional members of the board, leaned back, arms crossed tightly against his chest. Ethan swallowed hard. It was the exact pushback he had rehearsed for, but hearing it in the moment stung. He could feel his heart rate quicken. He had anticipated this question, yet when it emerged, it threatened to unravel everything he had built up in his mind. "I believe we can integrate this mission with our goals by partnering with local businesses, engaging employees in outreach, and even promoting corporate responsibility." The room fell silent. The board members exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of contemplation and uncertainty. Ethan sensed their skepticism but also a glimmer of hope. Would they follow him down this path of compassion? As he concluded his presentation, he opened the floor to questions, feeling the breath of anticipation behind him. One after another, colleagues began asking questions, some challenging him, others expressing excitement. And in that back-and-forth dialogue, Ethan felt the electricity of possibility. He spoke with verve, responding to each challenge, countering every doubt with the experiences he had gathered while researching community needs. The passion igniting within him was undeniable, fueled by the memories of that day at the shelter, the light in Mia's eyes, the laughter of children. It was no longer just about corporate strategy. It was about humanity. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime of debate, the board chair cleared his throat. "We need to consider this further," he announced. The air grew tense as Ethan's heart sank. But then the chair continued, "However, I see potential in what you're proposing. Let us move forward to the next steps." A wave of relief washed over Ethan. They hadn't fully embraced the vision yet, but they hadn't dismissed it, either. In the days that followed, he poured his heart into involving his colleagues in the new initiative. He organized team meetings, invited them to share ideas, and they engaged in community discussions. Slowly, what had once felt like a solo journey transformed into a collaborative effort. As his vision began to take root, Ethan found himself reconnecting with his brother too. They met for coffee, shared stories, and Ethan discovered his brother had his own ideas about local volunteer work. It sparked a bond that had been lost for years. But as the movement gained momentum, so did the complexities. There were pushbacks from classic corporate structures, and the fear of failure lingered. One afternoon, while driving home, Ethan grabbed his phone to check a message, his heart pounding from all the conversations. It was Mia. "I stand by you. Can't wait for our next unscripted hug." Ethan. He smiled, the warmth spreading through him like the sun breaking over the horizon. It felt good to have someone believe in him, someone who had lived through adversity yet stayed hopeful. And then, a new idea struck him. What if he could invite Mia to speak at their first community event? He could see how her story of resilience could inspire others. But just as quickly as the idea blossomed, a pang of doubt followed. What if she couldn't or didn't want to? What if it all crumbled before it had a chance to be built? Ethan parked the car and took a deep breath, his future unfolding with both excitement and uncertainty. His journey was far from over, and the next step loomed large in front of him. Would he muster the courage to reach out and ask Mia for help? The next day dawned bright and clear, a perfect metaphor for the optimism swirling in Ethan's heart. He tried to focus on his work, but every moment was overshadowed by his thoughts of Mia. He considered her resilience. The way her laughter had echoed through the shelter, it was infectious. He almost wished he could bottle it up and share it with every adult too wrapped up in their routines to see the joy that came from helping others. Finally, fueled by a mix of hope and fear, he slid into his office chair and took a deep breath. He tapped his fingers against the desk nervously, contemplating how to approach her. What would he say? Would it come off as desperate? Or worse, would he make her feel pressured? After several minutes of deliberation, he typed out a text. "Hey, Mia. I've been thinking about the community event I'm organizing. I'd love for you to speak. Your story could inspire so many. What do you think?" The minutes dragged on like hours, and he hit refresh on his phone more times than he cared to admit. When the reply finally came, his heart raced. "I'd be honored, Ethan. Can't wait to support you." A wave of relief washed over him, mixed with the swell of excitement at the possibility. The support he sought was finally palpable. Imagining her standing before a crowd, her voice powerful and uplifting, sent shivers down his spine. As the days rolled into weeks, Ethan and Mia began collaborating on the community event. They met at coffee shops, where discussions turned into brainstorming sessions filled with laughter and ideas. Ethan's colleagues noticed the spark in his eyes and began responding to his vision with renewed energy. The seeds they had planted were starting to flourish. But as preparations accelerated, so did the opposing forces. The cynicism within higher-ups began to intensify. Chad, relentless in his pursuit of maintaining the status quo, saw the upcoming event as a diversion from what he deemed serious business. One afternoon, Ethan found himself in a tense conversation with Chad. "This is all nice and good, Ethan, but it's a waste of resources. We can't afford to dip into profits for this charity," he said, his tone harsh. Ethan felt his world tilt for a moment, feeling the weight of Chad's words pressing heavily on him. Was he endangering the company's success? But then he thought of Mia and the families they were working to help. Chad, he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. This isn't just charity. It's an investment in our future, a chance to build a community. Think about it. Chad scoffed but walked away, leaving Ethan alone with his thoughts. He paced the office, feeling the tension swell within him. Could he really change minds amidst this level of resistance? Later, while driving home, he struggled to shake the doubt that crept in like an unwelcome guest. If he couldn't convince Chad, would the initiative fall apart? Just as he felt the weight of despair settling in, his phone chirped again. It was a picture from Mia, her radiant smile captivating through the screen. "You're doing amazing things. Ethan, remember why you started." In that moment, Ethan felt recharged. He realized his motivation stemmed from more than just business. It was about bringing people together, transforming lives, including his own. As the event approached, he planned every detail meticulously. But in the back of his mind loomed the ever-present question. What if it didn't just meet expectations, but failed completely? The night before the event, Ethan sat at his kitchen table, resolve rising within him like a tide. He decided to take a leap of faith. Tomorrow would be a defining moment, not only for himself but for many others too. He glanced at the clock, the hands ticking down. Would it be a celebration of change, or a display of defeat? Tomorrow loomed large, a question mark hanging in the air. What would happen when they took that first step into the unknown? As dawn broke over the city, the sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, filled with quiet promise. Ethan awoke with a mix of anticipation and nerves coursing through him. Today wasn't just another day at the office. It was the culmination of weeks of hard work, of dreams and hope unfurling like petals in the sunlight. He dressed deliberately that morning, choosing a crisp blue shirt that felt like a statement of confidence in his vision. As he stared in the mirror, he could almost hear Mia's encouraging words echoing in his mind. "You've got this, Ethan." Those words stuck with him, like a buoy in a stormy sea. The drive to the venue was hauntingly quiet. The streetlights flickered as he passed, and for a moment, he questioned everything: the planning, the risks, the potential for failure. But with each mile, that tight knot of fear began to loosen. He envisioned Mia speaking, her eyes sparkling, her voice lifting the crowd. Arriving early at the community center, Ethan stepped inside, the space buzzing with the sounds of setting up. Volunteers scurried about, and the soft aroma of coffee merged with the faint scent of fresh paint. He greeted familiar faces with nervous smiles, checking logistics, sound system, seating arrangements, everything needed to create an inviting atmosphere. As the clock inched closer to the start time, tension coiled in his stomach. Ethan glanced at the doorway, waiting for Mia. She had promised to arrive early to help set up, but with each passing minute, anxiety mounted. Would she be late? Did something happen? Just before he spiraled into his thoughts, she appeared. The moment Mia stepped through the door, everything seemed to slow. Her hair danced lightly with the breeze, and when their eyes met, he felt a surge of warmth brighten his worries. She wore a simple dress that complemented her joyful spirit, and she walked toward him with that radiant smile that always made his heart leap. "Sorry I'm late. You wouldn't believe the traffic." She waved a hand nonchalantly, but Ethan could see a glint of excitement in her eyes. She seemed ready. "You're here now, and that's what matters," he replied with a grin that felt buoyant. "You'll knock them off their feet, Mia." As they began hanging banners and arranging chairs, the conversation flowed easily. They laughed and exchanged anecdotes, moments of levity amid the frenetic preparations. Ethan breathed in the moment, remembering how he had been lost before she entered his life. The crowd started to trickle in, a mix of familiar faces and those he didn't recognize. Ethan stood in front of them, feeling a buzz of energy charge the air. He took a moment to gather his thoughts before stepping to the microphone. "Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today." His voice, steadier than he anticipated, echoed through the hall. "This is not just an event. It's an opportunity for all of us to connect, to forge something beautiful together." Just then, Ethan spotted Mia in the crowd, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. He felt a rush of gratitude wash over him. As he invited Mia up to speak, the room fell silent. She took the stage, and for a heartbeat, Ethan was struck by how raw this moment was. Her story, filled with resilience and hope, unfolded as she spoke. But midway through her speech, a sudden commotion erupted at the back of the hall. A couple of latecomers were arguing about seating, raising voices, their stress spilling out into the space like oil on water. Ethan's stomach sank. This wasn't how he envisioned today. Caught off guard, he glanced at Mia, who paused mid-sentence, eyes widening slightly. Would this chaos derail her message? Would it unravel everything they had worked for? As he took a step toward the disruption, he felt a squeeze of urgency deep within. Will she still believe in him when the dust settles? This event was their dream, his chance to show everyone how powerful community could be. Could they turn this moment around? As his heart raced, he grasped for a solution, not just to quiet the disturbance but to reinforce the very values they were trying to highlight. But what would it take for him to really regain control? Ethan steeled himself, eyeing the growing crowd. The turning point was here and he had to seize it. Would this be the moment that either cemented their vision or shattered it completely? Ethan's mind raced as the noise at the back of the room escalated. His heart pounded like a drummer in a marching band, and he felt the weight of every eye in the space turning toward him. Mia stood at the front, a slight frown shadowing her expression, the message of hope she had been sharing suddenly overshadowed by the disruption. Taking a deep breath, he pivoted to the mic, his voice steady and clear despite the tumult. "Hey, everyone. It looks like we have a little excitement going on back there. Let's make sure everyone feels welcome." He smiled as warmly as he could, hoping to defuse the tension. Slowly, the room began to settle, people shifting their attention back to him as the argument at the rear fizzled out into quiet murmurs. Ethan could see relief wash over Mia, her expression softening. But this was far from over. The disturbance had cracked the atmosphere, and he needed to mend it. "I want to take a moment to acknowledge something important," he continued. "We all come from different backgrounds and experiences, but what brings us here today is the desire to connect." He scanned the room, his eyes searching for anything that resembled agreement or unity. Mia stepped closer to him, her hand resting lightly on his arm, an unspoken reassurance between them. He felt emboldened by her presence, the two of them standing together, facing the crowd. "What we're doing here isn't just about this event," Ethan pressed on, feeling passion ignite within him. "It's about building community, supporting each other, embracing our differences, and lifting each other up." He paused for effect, letting his words sink in. "So let us take this moment, right here, right now, to show how we can transform anger into understanding." The chatter paused as the vision of their goal settled in the air. Heads nodded slowly, and the atmosphere began to shift back from chaos towards something more hopeful. Mia stepped forward, her confidence radiating like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Ethan's right," she chimed in, her eyes bright like stars. "We're all here because we believe in change, and in change we find strength and love." She glanced at the crowd, her smile contagious. "Let us use this moment to remember that everyone deserves a seat at the table." Slowly, applause began to ripple through the crowd. It started low but erupted into a wave as people united in a shared message. Ethan felt the tension lift from his shoulders, replaced by an electric current of support igniting the space. Emboldened, he spoke again. "Let us not just connect with words today, but with action. If there is someone beside you who you don't know, take a second to introduce yourself. Look around. Let us turn this event into something bigger than ourselves." The applause grew louder. Laughter erupted, spurred by people reaching out to one another, small conversations blossoming everywhere like wildflowers. Ethan's heart swelled with pride watching his community come together, barriers dissolving like mist under the sun. But just as he began to believe the air had cleared, he noticed a shadow looming at the entrance of the hall, a woman, her eyes wild, scanning the crowd with desperation. A lump formed in Ethan's throat as he considered the implications of her presence. What had she come to find? Was it chaos or connection for her? The moment bore an urgency that reached out to him, pulling on something deep within. The true test of their resolve seemed just on the horizon. Would this day end in hope, or would it take a different turn entirely? Ethan stood taller, preparing for what lay ahead. The defiance of disruption had brought them back together now. Would they be able to embrace whatever challenge was about to unfold? The woman took a step into the room, her figure trembling slightly. Ethan's heart raced. Everyone had turned to look at her, and the earlier wave of warmth felt fragile in the face of her distress. What could make someone look so panicked? He leaned closer to Mia, whispering, "Who is she?" "I'm not sure," Mia replied, her brow furrowing as she watched. The room held its breath. People exchanged glances, a collective anxiety creeping back in. The warmth they built felt dim under the weight of her presence. Ethan cleared his throat, hoping a friendly voice could diffuse the palpable tension. "Excuse me," he called out, stepping down from the stage and moving toward her. "Are you okay? Can we help you with something?" He caught a glimpse of her face, etched with worry, her eyes glassy as if battling back tears. "I am looking for my sister," she stammered, her voice wavering. I haven't heard from her. She was supposed to come here today. Ethan paused, taking in the shift in her demeanor. The crowd's energy surged with concern. It was as if her plea had pulled them back into the present, reminding all of them that beyond the sense of community they'd been building, real-life struggles were unfolding just outside their view. Ethan felt the urge to comfort her. "We can help you find her. Do you have a photo? Anything that can help us?" Yes. I have a photo," she said breathlessly. Her fingers trembled as she pulled out her phone from her bag. She's never been gone this long. As the woman showed Ethan the picture, his heart sank. The young girl in the photo looked familiar. He squinted, recalling a smiling face he had seen at the shelter, a face who had come to the events, eager to share stories, glowing with laughter and hope. She had been a shining light amongst the gathering shadows. "Is she here?" the woman whispered, fear clawing at her throat. Ethan shared a glance with Mia, who was now by his side, her eyes wide. "I think she might be," he said slowly, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "But let us check." Ethan felt invigorated by the energy of the crowd behind him, their concern morphing into determination. People were rising from their seats now, stepping forward, eyes set with a mission. "Let us help," someone shouted, their voice cutting through the tension, igniting a response as others began to search the room. Ethan couldn't shake the urgency buzzing in his chest. He turned to the woman beside him, who was now grasping her phone like a lifeline. "We will find her," he promised, his voice steadier than he felt. "Let us split up. I'll check outside, and Mia can help you talk to some people here." But as they moved, a voice rang out from the other side of the room, crisp and clear, followed by ecstatic cheers. Ethan froze for a second, a mixture of relief and dread flooding his senses. It was her, the girl from the photo, standing there amidst familiar faces, joy visible on her features, breaking through the crowd like a sunrise. The woman saw her too, her face transforming from worry to disbelief in an instant. "Is that?" "Yes," Ethan shouted, rushing toward the girl, waving the stricken woman over. There was a collective gasp from the room as the woman's face filled with hope. But just before the two could meet, a shadow loomed again, one that flickered uncertainty where there had been promise. What new twist awaited them as they reached that moment? Would their reunion bring closure, or open up another chapter they weren't prepared for? Ethan pushed through the crowd, his heart pounding with a mix of anxiety and relief. He was steps away from the girl who had brought so much light into their community. The woman, still several feet behind him, rushed forward, her hands almost shaking with anticipation. The warmth of hope filled the chilly air, but the shadow lurking in the corner of his eye felt heavier than before. As the girl turned, her laughter ringing through the room, Ethan's focus blurred momentarily. She seemed to almost glow with joy, bright and unfiltered. Yet something in her expression caught his attention. There was a fleeting glance behind her, a flicker of worry that didn't belong in the same moment. "Riley," The woman's voice sliced through the gathered crowd. Riley, the girl in the photograph, beamed back at her sister as their eyes locked. Confusion washed over her features. "Ruby? Mia, do you see that look?" Ethan whispered, while trying to read between the lines. Something was off. As the sisters drew closer, Ruby's eyes darted around the room, landing for just a moment on Ethan. "I thought you said you were coming." "I waited for hours," the words tumbled out, laden with hurt and confusion. "Wait a second." Ruby stepped forward, her voice sharp now. "You were supposed to meet me at the coffee shop, remember? I was worried sick. I thought I lost you." Riley shifted on her feet, color draining from her face as realization sank in. "I got held up. There was this event and she faltered. "I didn't mean to, I just wanted to have fun." Ethan could see the hurt in Ruby's eyes deepen, her heart breaking beneath the weight of misunderstanding. Those moments of joy were slipping away, swirling into something darker with each passing second. "Fun?" Ruby repeated, incredulous. There was a thickness in the air now, a tension that felt suffocating. "You call staying out all night without telling me fun? You can't just leave like that. It's not just you anymore." Riley's face fell, the light dimming as she took in her sister's pain. Ethan stepped closer, sensing that this was no ordinary reunion. The crowd had turned still, their earlier excitement replaced by an unspoken worry for the sisters. "I'm sorry," Riley whispered, tears forming as she took a hesitant step toward Ruby. "I thought you knew I'd be okay." "Okay," Ruby said, her voice cracking. "How could I know that? I've worried every single minute." Ethan felt his heart break along with theirs. This was not just about finding someone missing. It was about fears and love tangled together in hurtful confusion. He stepped in closer, wanting to bridge that gap, to mend the fracture that was unfolding in front of him. "Hey, can we talk about this?" he proposed gently, wanting to guide them back to each other. But Ruby's gaze held a storm of emotions, the soft light of hope dimmed by their confrontation. "I just wish you could let me know," Ruby said, her voice barely above a whisper. The crowd felt anchored to the moment. Pity echoed in sympathetic glances exchanged among strangers. It was one of those moments in life that felt achingly relatable in a way that struck deep, causing everyone present to reflect on their own loved ones. Riley took a breath, blinking back tears, a resolve building within her. "I messed up," she admitted, "but I want to fix this. I don't want to lose you, Ruby." There was hesitation, doubt, and yet buried beneath it, a flicker of forgiveness dared to rise. Ethan could feel the collective breath of the room. These were the moments that could change lives forever. What would it take for Ruby to forgive? Could Riley truly mend the bond that had been overstrained? And as the weight of their strained sisterhood hung in the air, Ethan realized this was just the beginning of healing that would redefine their connection, if only they were willing to embrace it. Could they find their way back to each other? Or would this moment lead them further apart? Riley stood frozen, her heart racing in rhythm with the anticipation of the crowd. She searched Ruby's eyes, a whirlwind of emotions capturing their space like a heavy fog. Each heartbeat seemed to amplify the unsaid words hanging between them. The warmth of their childhood memories flashed momentarily in her mind, but all she could feel now was the ache of disappointment. "Look, Ruby," Riley said, her voice trembling, "I never meant to hurt you. I don't know, I got swept up. It was supposed to be fun, just a break from everything." She took a step closer, hopeful. "Can't you see that? Fun?" Ruby scoffed, shaking her head, a mixture of anger and sadness flashing across her face. "You think disappearing is fun? I was scared sick." "Please don't shout," Riley pleaded, glancing nervously around at the onlookers who had become a silent audience to their pain. "Let us just talk." Ethan shifted closer, aware that the sisters needed more than just words. They needed the space to feel and heal. But he was just an outsider, wasn't he? He didn't belong in this fragile moment. Another voice broke through, softer and more conciliatory. "Riley, maybe you didn't realize what Ruby was going through." It was Mia, stepping forward with a gentle hand on Ruby's shoulder. "You both need this chance to really hear each other." "Why should I?" Ruby's voice was sharp, but it was clear her strength was faltering. You've always had your fun, Riley, but you don't understand. You don't understand what it's like to feel like you're losing someone you love with no warning. Riley's heart twisted painfully. She thought she had everything under control. After all, she was the fun one, the carefree spirit, the sister whose laughter filled the empty spaces in their lives. But now, standing before Ruby, she felt exposed. You're right, she admitted, her voice choking. I never thought about it that way. I just wanted out for a minute and escape. The crowd was so still, as if collectively holding its breath. Ethan could see tears welling in Ruby's eyes, reflecting back the hurt she felt. A single tear escaped, trailing down her cheek, a simple embodiment of everything that had unfolded between them. Taking a deep breath, Riley stepped forward. I'm sorry, she whispered again. This time the weight of her apology heavy with sincerity. I didn't mean to vanish. I'll fix this. I'll make sure you know where I am and what I'm doing. Just don't shut me out. Please. Ethan held his breath, hoping against hope they'd find a way through this tangled web. Could they weave their way back to each other? The warmth of vulnerability covered them both. A fragile, flickering light amid uncertainty. I don't want to shut you out, Ruby said finally, her voice trembling. I just need to know that I can trust you. Then trust me, Riley urged, her heart racing. Let me prove it to you. The corner of Ruby's mouth twitched, as if a smile might surface, but the doubt still lingered. What if you let me down again? Then I'll work harder, Riley said, a new determination hardening her resolve. I swear I will never. But before she could finish, a loud crash interrupted the moment, drawing every eye in the crowd to the sudden chaos spilling from the entrance. The shadows Ethan had sensed earlier now loomed larger, crawling into the heart of the reunion. Ruby and Riley instinctively stepped back, their confrontation forgotten in an instant. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. What had just broken into their world? What threat now posed danger to this moment of reconciliation? And as he turned to face whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing was certain: this was only the beginning of an unraveling story that would test their bonds even further. The sudden crash echoed like thunder, splitting the stillness that had just begun to settle over the room. Every head turned towards the entrance as a figure stumbled through, eyes wide and frantic. It was a man, disheveled and wild-eyed, breathing heavily, chaos trailing behind him. What's happening? Ethan thought, sensing a mix of fear and uncertainty rippling through the crowd. Ruby and Riley's moment of potential relief seemed to evaporate in an instant, giving way to new confusion. Please, the man shouted, voice raw with desperation. I need help. They need help. Ethan's heart raced as he stepped forward, instinct guiding him. What's going on? He asked, hoping to calm the situation spiraling out of control. The shelter, the man gasped, looking straight into Ethan's eyes, searching for understanding. It's flooded. We need people. Families are trapped children. We have to go. A wave of gasps washed over the crowd, tangible fear reflected in the widening eyes of every person. Everything they had spent weeks building, a connection, a sense of purpose, a chance to nurture their community, now braced against the impending storm of reality crashing down on them. Ethan. Mia's voice broke through the noise, urgency lacing her every word. We can't just stand here. We have to do something. He felt the pulse of determination surge within him, fueled by the warmth he had always found in community, a thread that had woven its way through his heart in all his interactions with Mia, Ruby, and Riley. You're right, he shouted, feeling clarity emerge from chaos. Let us get to the shelter. We can help. Everyone listen up. Ethan turned to the group, galvanizing the crowd's energy. Whoever can help, let us go. We'll split up roles in the car. Some of us can gather supplies while others take vehicles to get people. We can make this work. As the urgency electrified the air, he saw resolve illuminated across familiar faces. Mia, Ruby, Riley, and their growing community rallied, a tapestry of support wrapping around each other tighter. They could feel the call to action echoing through their bones. Grab what you can, he shouted again, directing the surge of people as they sprang into action. Bags began to pack. The dull thrum of anxiety transformed into purposeful energy. Ethan turned to Mia, their eyes locking as they shared a moment of understanding. Hope ignited by compassion. "We'll face this together," he affirmed, determination sweetening his voice. Ruby and Riley stood shoulder to shoulder, a newfound unity bridging the gulf that had threatened to divide them. "I'm with you," Ruby declared, the strength in her voice reminding Ethan of their essence, the power of family. As the crowd surged towards the exit, Ethan felt his own fears flicker beneath the surface, but his heart surged with resolve. This was the moment where everything converged: the pain, the hope, and the chance to ignite true change. Minutes later, Ethan found himself navigating the bustling streets toward the shelter, the weight of the mission ahead urging him on. They had a purpose, a shared goal, and in that urgency the fractures began to mend. Upon arrival, chaos greeted them. Water swirled around the entrance, families huddling together, eyes wide with fear and uncertainty. Yet among the murmurings of despair, Ethan spotted familiar faces. The community was coming alive, a dynamic force of compassion swelling within each one present. With Mia leading the charge, they began distributing supplies, wrapping first aid kits around trembling hands, clearing pathways of debris, and forming human chains of support. The night wore on with the looming shadow of nature, but the light of connection and love shone brighter than ever. Ethan felt each step they took resonate within his soul. Every child's smile, every grateful hug forged a bond no amount of corporate success could ever replicate. At that moment, he knew this was the legacy he wanted to build, one of empathy, resilience, and family. Hours later, with the storm subsiding, a final wave of exhaustion settled in. But as Ethan took a moment to breathe, glancing across the shelter, he saw families united, a sense of camaraderie replacing fear. The air filled with laughter amidst recovery, all sparked by the very children he had once overlooked. Ethan looked around, and as his gaze met Mia's, he nodded with gratitude. She had sparked a change in him, one that transcended business and soaked into his very core. He had rediscovered the lasting impact of community, the profound connection that ignited not just hope, but transformation. And amidst the whirlwind of events, the shadows that once seemed to loom large now faded elegantly into the background, replaced with the warmth of compassion and unity. Ethan smiled, surrounded by the very people he had endeavored to uplift, ready to embark on this new chapter hand in hand, heart to heart. As the sun broke through the clouds, illuminating the scene, he realized the true wealth wasn't in profits, but in purpose, the people and the stories that would continue to create the vibrant tapestry of their shared future. Now, inspired by the journey they had collectively endured, he felt an overwhelming urge pulse through him, a call that rose above the chaos. This was the moment to share their story, a reminder to embrace life's messiness in the pursuit of connection. You need to subscribe now to this channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire like Ethan's. Leave a like now, to feed that algorithm and show you support what truly matters. Comment your feelings and reactions about this ending, let the world hear your voice. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this life-changing transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the depth of this real community spirit.